Hey adventurers, today is another book review. This is going to be for Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. So I got this book for Christmas and I want to say I started it before the end of the year, but I don't think I did. I think, if I did, I guess it would have been like the last day of the year, the 31st of December or something like that. Anyway, so I read it early part of this year and overall I really enjoyed it, and we'll get into more of my thoughts in a second here. This is a fantasy and a little bit of portal fantasy, and I think YA is a young adult as well. So I've heard about this book for a very, very long time. It's always been there as one that if the opportunity presented itself, I'd probably read it. Other than that, I really didn't know much about the book. I heard that it was full of magic and wonder, and that people loved it, and that it was a heartwarming read and just really fun. But that was really it. I didn't really know anything about what this story was about. I assumed it had something to do with the moving castle since it was called Howl's Moving Castle, but other than that I really knew nothing. I also assumed it was fantasy, that it was magic, and it was about a moving castle like I already mentioned. I went into it expecting to enjoy it, but also just kind of to go along with the ride and see where it took me. I was intrigued from the beginning, but also a bit disappointed. We heard about the castle early on, but didn't really get to it for a while, and even then the story didn't seem to revolve around it like I thought it should. I went into it hoping that this was gonna be like some really magical, go into the castle and you learn all these interesting things. You go through this door and it takes you to do this type of thing, and you go through this door and it does this other thing, and it's just magic and wonder and whimsy all over the place. And while magic and wonder and whimsy all over the place is accurate, not in what I was thinking, which isn't bad, and it actually turned out to be rather enjoyable the way it was written. So I kept reading. We met various characters, learned more and more about the magic and where these characters came from, and my interest went from intrigued to invested. I was intrigued for a while, probably about to the halfway point, enough to was like, okay, I want to see what's next, but then somewhere, I don't remember exactly where it is or what scene or anything, I got to a point where I went from being just intrigued as to what's coming next to actually be invested in the story and in the characters and seeing what would happen to them. Everyone talks about how wonderful the character of Calcifer is, and I don't disagree, but that's not what stood out to me about him. It was his backstory to me, and the backstory of Howl and the rest. Actually, most of it we don't learn until close to the end, but the little hints that are dropped here and there were enough to make me want to learn more. So you can kind of guess and you can kind of put things together and put pieces together as you're reading, but there's a lot of things about it that, as a good story should, don't get revealed, or you can guess them, but they aren't really blatantly stated in any way until closer to the end, where it's finally revealed how the things work together. And so while the characters were all great and everything, what really hooked me on the characters was that they had an extensive backstory. They had something that brought them to where they were, that was enjoyable and that was very interesting to me. The magic system and the magical items intrigued me. The writing style was immersive enough that I felt like I was with the characters experiencing what they experienced. And that's a very good thing to find in a story for me. I really like that immersive experience, and it's something that I'm noticing with Lord of the Rings, this reread, is the more I pay attention to how phrases are worded, how sentences are worded, stuff like that, the more I see, oh, he tweaked it just a little bit. He wrote it in this specific way in order to invoke this specific emotion and to make you feel like you're in this place with them, whether it's sunshine and hills and green rolling hills, whatever, or if you're in valleys with trees all around and it's a brook running through it, or if you're in the deep underground and it's dark and pitch black but kind of cold, kind of scary, but not, everything isn't going wrong at the moment, but then when things do go wrong, you feel that sense of anxiety coming through the writing. And it's the same way with this Howl's Moving Castle. I thought the writing style was immersive enough that you could walk down the road with the characters and see the things see the things they're seeing, and understand why they're thinking what they're thinking, or what would lead them to that conclusion. And it was just an interesting and very well written book in that way as well. So it kind of ended exactly like I was expecting it to end, but in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be. And I also, even though I guessed some of it, there's at least half or more that I hadn't really guessed and hadn't figured out how exactly they work together. Some of the magic things at the very end were just like, what? How did you come up with this, and why did you decide to do it this way? And it's interesting, it's good, done in a good way, but it is interesting and it's kind of hard to completely understand, but it works really well. I mean, it's not difficult to understand as in it's being confusing, it's just there's several layers to the things that happen that you have to be able to remember what happened earlier in the books to be able to figure out what's happening at the end of the book. And so that was really cool. Overall, it was just a wonderful experience, and I can absolutely see why people say it's a heartwarming, whimsical tale. Well worth the time I spent reading it. So it took me some time to read it. I think it was mostly because I was reading other things at the same time, and so it wasn't my primary focus, or my sole focus at least. And so I wasn't pouring all my time and energy into the one book, but it was a really good story and really very enjoyable, and I'm very glad to have read it. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We have our social medias linked in the description down below. Please like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.